Hi, this is Lucia with The Art of Love. Welcome, and if you're listening on iTunes, please leave a review afterwards. So I have an email this week from a woman who says, I just discovered your podcast and I love it. Yay! You do a great job of delivering honest but constructive advice. I'm hoping you can help me with my current situation. Yes, don't worry, I will be honest and constructive. Okay, she says, I met a guy a few months ago at work. Both of us are in our early 30s. It was very obvious he was into me, and everyone at work could see it. His eyes would light up when he saw me. Okay, so far so good. Before he switched departments, he asked for my number. He routinely works 90 to 100 hours a week. Ouch. That's a lot. Our schedules are opposites most of the time, so it took a few weeks for us to go on a date. It was a very nice date, and we continued to text about 5 days per week afterwards, him initiating. Okay, so far, this all sounds fine. Continuing on, he says, or she says, it took a few more weeks until we tried another date, but he wasn't feeling well that day. Later in the week, I asked if we were going to get together again, and he asked me to do something on that Sunday, but I had plans and communicated my losing hope in us getting together again. I now realize that was a mistake. Yes. Yes, it was. And also the fact that you asked him if we were getting together again. Do not do that. Let the guy lead. Let the guy be the alpha. Do not ask when you're getting together again. That way he'll know that he's in charge of making plans. Otherwise, there won't be any plans. Otherwise, you're starting to take over his role. You're starting to be the alpha. He knows he's got you, and he starts to lose interest and become bored, which is what is happening as we continue on reading, you'll see. And so she said, he wanted to do something after I was done with my plans, but I didn't contact him that day because I was confused about us. So what do you mean by us? There is no us. You're not a couple. You're not exclusive. So after a couple of dates, you're already thinking us? No. And then she goes on to say, this is where things start to cool off. Well, I believe it, because probably your attitude and your body language and maybe even some of the things that you were saying led him to believe that you were way ahead of things in terms of relationship timing more than him, which is why you're now saying to me you were confused about us. So he could feel it. He could sense it. All right. She says, I texted him the next week, and he would respond being his usual sweet self. But when I asked if we had weekend plans, he said he didn't. Or if he had weekend plans, he said he didn't, and then didn't respond when I said if we could do something. Whew. Stop texting him. Stop asking him to get together. And of course he's going to be sweet. Guys don't want to be thought of as jerks for the most part. Most guys don't want to be thought of as jerks, so of course he's going to be nice. And I mean, you're acting like you're a couple and you're supposed to be getting together every weekend. So unless there's something you're not telling me, to me it sounds like you're just dating and you're way ahead, way more ahead than he is. He's still at the starting gate and you're like halfway through the race. Okay. The next 2 weeks we continued to text, but have gone 6 days without texting at one point. I'm confused why he reached out to me at all if he wanted to fade out. Like I said, he wants to be a nice guy. He doesn't want to just disappear. In his text, he still called me babe. Yeah, well, so what? It's just a word. He might call his friend babe. Anybody. Anyone can just call anyone babe. That means absolutely nothing, so who cares? It's just words. He asked how I was and said he hopes to run into me at work. Yes, you're saying, you realize these are just words. Don't know why he's even bothering to communicate if he doesn't at least like me a little. Yeah, he likes you a little, but he's just not as interested as he was before because you're killing it. Okay, moving on. I texted him last a few days ago. Stop texting him! Asking if his week was still going well and haven't heard back. Gee, I wonder why. Because he's probably saying the same thing. He's probably thinking, stop texting me! But not in that high a voice. Hopefully. I'm not sure what went wrong. Well, I think from listening to this podcast now, you're understanding what went wrong and how I can fix this. Yes, stop texting him. Does it sound like he's confused? No. Like I said in my podcast from last week, 99% of the time, guys are not confused. They're not confused, they're not shy, they're not busy, they're just not as interested. He's just not as interested as he was before because you're killing attraction by constantly chasing him and being the man. My current plan is not to initiate any more contact. Well, thank God. And not respond unless he asks me out for a date. Perfect. I will inevitably run into him at work, so now I know I will struggle with being friendly but keeping him at arm's length. I tend to lean towards being colder in these types of situations. Well, don't do that because, 1 minute you're texting him and then all of a sudden you're cold. I mean, then you start to look bipolar. So he didn't do anything wrong. He just lost interest because you were just chasing too much. There's no reason to be cold to him. He's not a jerk. He hasn't done anything wrong. Any advice you can offer would be much appreciated. I am too involved to be objective, but I feel like he's stringing me along, and I'm not sure how we got here from him being so into me initially. Right, he was into you initially, and he's not stringing you along. He's not doing anything. He's just responding to what you're doing, and what you're doing is, like I said, killing attraction because, men go really hard for what they want, and if they're not going hard for you, it means you're not what they want. And you may have been what he wanted in the beginning, and you may be that in the future, but you need to just leave the guy alone. He's working, understand, 90 to 100 hours a week. On top of that, he has to sleep, hopefully, once in a while, plus, do laundry and eat and just whatever. So he doesn't have a lot of time, and you need to understand that. And maybe relationships are not a priority at this time. And yes, he is busy, but if someone is interested, they do make time, even if it's just a little bit of time. So to anyone listening who's in this same situation, you have to let the guy lead. You don't ask when are we going to see each other again. You don't wonder about us after 2 dates. You just live your life and show that you're a woman of high value, and you do that by having a life and not chasing. Okay, so I am available for private coaching if you need more help with this. Otherwise, thank you so much for listening. You can find my website at theartoflove.net. And remember, until next time, that love inspires, empowers, uplifts, and enlightens.